like to call the meeting of the Region Queens Municipality Regular Council meeting to order Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021, 6 p.m. A reminder to put your phones on mute and no pictures or things from the Big Minute Speakers. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda other than the change from 15.1 is going to become 15.2 personnel matter, and 15.1 will become sale of municipal land? Any other additions or changes to the agenda? If not, I'll ask for a motion to accept them. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Charlton. All those in favor? Any petitions to table? Public question comment session. If you wish to speak, please give your name and your civic address and speak into the mic. Anyone from the gallery wishing to speak to council? Hearing none. Approval of the minutes, 6.1, regular council meeting March 9th, 2021. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Carl Hawk, moved by Councillor Hawk, seconded by Councillor Gidney. All those in favor? No dangerous and unsightly to report at this point in time. 8.1. Seasonal operation of Fort Point Lighthouse. Would someone please make this motion? Deputy Mayor Muse.
I move that the Council of the Region Queens Municipality enter into a 3-year agreement with Queens County Museum for the seasonal operation of Fort Point Lighthouse.
Seconded by Councillor Fancy. Any discussion? Because you know the background paper contains the fact that everything was presented as of the closing date. There was one applicant, the Queens County Museum. They're going to be working in partnership with the King's Orange Ranger. They've agreed to all of the stipulations within the RFP and have additional items that they wish to also provide. Councillor Charlton?
I'm very pleased to see that the museum has applied for this. I think it's a great fit for the purpose and the history in Queens, so I think it's great.
Any other comments? Councillor
Yeah, I'm happy to see this back. It's a historic site, and I'm really glad that the museum has taken it over, so that will be a definite benefit for us.
Jenny, we're in discussion regarding the seasonal operation of Fort Point.
Already?
There's no public comment or anything.
Okay.
If there's anything extra you want to add, please do so.
You already read your recommendation?
Yeah, and we did a little bit of the background.
Okay. Do you want me to just review what I had, or do you have any questions?
That's up to
for me?
council. Council, do you want Jenny to review the document? Fine. Do you have any questions of Jenny?
I think it would be nice just for the public, just so they understand.
Sure. Lanes has operated Fort Point as the result of an RFP that was issued in 2016 in December. They operated it for 4 seasons. We provided them with an extension last year that comes to an end at the end of March. So we issued an RFP on January 27th for the seasonal operation of Fort Point. The process was open for 4 weeks. It closed on February 26th. It was advertised in print media, on our website, on social media, and it was shared quite widely, but we only received one proposal at closing, and that was the Queens County Museum. They submitted a really strong proposal, and we're in
thought it was very great to have that explanation. Any other questions of Jenny? If not, I'll ask for the question. All those in favor? Pass.
I'm very sorry that I missed you.
Well, generally, there's, yeah. Thanks, Jenny. Under corporate services, as you are aware, there's a job realignment, sharing of different duties as a way to move forward on developing such things as economic strategies, digital strategies, going back to the BRE, which is the business extension and retention, looking at public places and trail strategy, recreation physical activity strategy, cultural strategies, immigration strategies. So the upcoming job descriptions will allow for those to develop within the different job positions that are here. So it was a realignment of duties, some new additions, and some changes. So 9.1, job description, Director of Economic Development. If someone would so move that recommendation. Councilor Brown.
I recommend that the Council of the Region of Queens Municipality approve the Director of Economic Development job description as attached.
Seconded by Councilor Amaro. As our Chief Administrative Officer was involved in doing this, if there's any questions, please direct them to us. Any questions? Councilor Charlton?
Would it just be possible just to do like a very brief, I guess, summary of the changes so that the public understands? Just like a, I know it's impossible to go into like super depth, but just.
I can attempt to, and then you can determine whether I go too far or not enough. So the current job description, which is the smaller font, many of the items that are in there I should say many of them, there's probably 7 or 8 of them there that continue on. They're consistent with what's in the new job description, although the wording's been updated and changed. So what is new though, just to highlight, in the old job description, item number 6 talks about attracting business investment. That's being transferred to the new business development officer. Item 10, meet with businesses on a regular basis. And item 11, which are both business type things, are both being transferred. Those are in the business development officer's job description as well. And some of the other ones, so those are the biggest changes that are coming out of it. And if you look at the new job description, for the proposed new job description, item 5 talks about an immigration strategy. We've talked about that before, but haven't had it in writing. So that's a new item for the director, would be development of an immigration strategy. Item 7 is new, developing and supporting a craft information or craft person information sharing. We have lots of culturally, we have a very culturally diverse community with lots of different crafts people with different, whether it's visual, media, and all the different types. So this will be developing an inventory of those and sharing those to promote them more. Item 9 is new, which is being aware of potential business closures, downsizing, opening, expansion, provide coordination and support for private sector employers. And so that is something that is somewhat done today, but that's a acknowledgement that we need to do more of that, keeping in touch with the local businesses that we have presently to make sure we're aware of what the challenges are, but also what the successes are. Item 11 is a marketing and promotional campaign, which is underway somewhat now, but that's a new item in the job description, wasn't in the previous one. Item 12 is leading development of countywide signage and branding, which is underway but was not in the current job description, but is underway, and so that's a new one that's in there. Item 13, working with cultural groups and agencies on development of a comprehensive cultural strategy. That was previously in there. This has been updated, and it now is in cooperation with the manager of events, promotions, and sponsorship. So it's a joint venture between 2 different staff. Item 14, working with diversity coordinator on developing multicultural events and highlighting those things in the community is a new one. So that's a new, item 14 is new. Item Item 15 is new, working with different sector specifics, so if there's an issue around forestry, which is in the media now, then the person would be involved in making sure we're educated, that council's aware what the issues are. And so if there's any advocacy work or things that council needs to be aware of, or that we need to do some work on behalf of businesses, that is now in there. Item 16, development of a digital strategy for the municipality, which talks about public Wi-Fi, e-commerce, those types of things. Cell phone apps, which we're now in the business of. We're very close to having a walking app for Liverpool. And so we've talked about we talked about apps for other things, but also e-commerce is more profile now with COVID, that we need to help advance that in our community, as well as support local businesses, so they have the opportunity to take advantage of that as well. Item 17, worked with the South Queens Chamber of Commerce and North Queens Board of Trade. Wasn't specifically itemized in job descriptions, but we do that now, so that's an item that we're just clarifying that that's still our role to do that. So those are the significant changes that aren't in the current job description, recognizing some of the other ones I mentioned have been transferred over to the business development officer.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just, mostly for the public so they understand documents over, just a summary, I think that was great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the motion? For the vote, all those in favor? Contrary? 9.2, and just as a reminder, there are no new positions created here. It's simply realignment of the present positions. So 9.2, there's a recommendation in the package. Councilor Charlton,
I move that Council of Region of Queens Municipality approve the business development officer job description, which is attached.
seconded by Councilor Brown, and I suspect the same question will be asked. So if you'd like to again go over the major similarities and differences.
Okay. So this one right now is Community Economic Development Coordinator, which focuses very much on the community part of the economic development. And so we're going to move away from that. And so this new position, or not new position, as the mayor said, this is the same position, but it's going to focus on business, specifically business. So in the current job description, there's many comments that relate to community development. Those words have now been changed to business development. So there's no more community development in this job description. Some of those functions will transfer to a different position. So if we look at in the current job position, which is the one with the small writing, item number 7, coordinate marketing and things, that's going to transfer to the new community development position, away from business development, or away from this position. There's number 10, talks about dealing with buildings, the Town Hall Arts and Cultural Center, and talk about former Mount Pleasant School, which we no longer own. So you'll see in the new job description, those are being transferred to, which is the Fort Point, the former Town Hall, those are all being transferred to the Community Development Coordinator, a different position. There's number 15, which talks about leading development of reviews of countywide signage and branding. So we just talked about that. That's transferred to the Director of Economic Development away from this position. So it's a much higher profile now moving into that. And then as well, item 17 in the current job description talks about working with new resident attraction, and that's in the director's position that we just discussed. So that's more because we're trying to attract more residents and new residents here to move here and live here year round. That's on the director's position. That's on the director's job description. So those are the significant changes out of that one. And when we look at the new ones, there are many. So the first one in the new job description talks about developing a business profile. Right now, the job description talks about a community profile. We need a business profile. We need to understand what the current business sector is, the current business climate, and so that needs to be one of the priorities. Item 2 talks about a comprehensive list of business funding programs, tax incentives, venture capital investment funds, training opportunities, private sector financial, very business focused. And so there's other agencies in the community like Social Opportunities, some other like BDC, some local banks and things that have some expertise in that area as well. So we work in partnership with them, but it would be more of a focus of this position to focus strictly on the business aspects of the community. Item 4, we do somewhat now, which is a comprehensive database of vacant and available for sale farm, agricultural, industrial, commercial, residential housing, and other land. So we have some of that available on our website now, but this puts a focus on specifically the job description. That's now a requirement as opposed to just an off the side of the desk, nice to have. Item 5, we do some of that now, but it's also a expanded as far as working on projects like agricultural day, farmers markets, and tourism business functions. So we do some of that now, but it is expansion. The next one's develop a business attraction and program or resources guidebook, highlight the opportunities of working and living here. So we have lots of information, but we don't have it in a format that's presentable to the public in a professional way. So that talks about the need for us to work on that. Item 7, meet with several different businesses each month, which is being on the road, in people's stores, in people's businesses, to talk to them face to face. We've been doing a good job of email stuff and sending out newsletters and stuff electronically, but we need to be face to face with people to engage with them about their businesses on their own turf, to find out what their challenges are, what their successes are, and find out what resources they need for us to help them with. Item 8 talks about attracting business investment, talks about regulatory tax system changes, municipal licenses and permitting system. And so this position, when they're meeting with local businesses, will hear, well, it took me a long time to get a development permit or a building permit, or I have to fill out 5 forms to get a health permit, or I need to get licenses from the province. So this person will hear those types of suggestions, and they will work with our own staff, they'll work with provincial and federal agencies depending on the nature, and they will do some advocacy on their behalf to try to streamline that to help reduce that red tape for local businesses. Item 11, conduct a review of the new economy around home-based businesses and the sharing economy, which is very prevalent in the news now. And so what's the impact on us? Is it a positive impact, a negative impact on us? And so this is really a research component right now to determine what those effects are going to be. And is there something a position the municipality needs to do going forward that we need to do better to ensure that we're ready for any changes that may be coming down the pipeline, as well as is the province looking at doing some things? Because we hear the province is looking at some regulatory changes. If that's the case, we need to know ahead of time what those changes are going to be so we can adapt to those. Item 12, the mayor mentioned about the development of a BRIE strategy, business retention and expansion, which follows up on meeting with businesses. It's developing this whole database of who's out there, the types of jobs that are there. If a business is struggling to find certain types of employees, what's the skill set they need? Do we have those types of skill sets in our community? Or do we need to offer training program for existing people that live in our community? Or do we attract people from other communities that have those skills to come work here so those businesses can continue to stay in the community? Because by attracting those people with those skills or developing the skills in-house with existing residents that need training. So it's developing a whole database of what's there, what we need, and what we need to attract. 13 is purchasing data from Stats Canada. So we have lots of people who are interested in development in Queens County, but they want data. And unfortunately, the data they want, we don't have. And so Stats Canada has lots of data online, but the data we need, they don't give for free. We have to actually buy it. And then we typically have to hire people to assess it for us. So this will put some responsibility on this position to actually help do some of that data analysis, to help us figure out what that data is, and how we can best use it to work with developers who are interested in putting developments in Queens County. 14 is new, which talks about developing entrepreneurship and private sector growth on one-on-one support. So if that's somebody that's interested in setting up a business or has an idea, it's not emails anymore, it's sitting down with them face to face and saying, what are your issues, what do you need help with? And then facilitating that, whether they need to go to social opportunities to develop a business plan, whether they need to go to export development in Canada if they want to export a product over an existing business, or a local bank for financing, we would help facilitate those discussions and help facilitate the permitting process to help them move forward in a more systematic way, as opposed to them saying, I want to start a business, but there's so much, it's so complicated, I don't know where to get started, so we'll help them get started. Item 19 is just keeping an ear to the ground about different business leads that might be out there and following up. So we know many people have said before, we have women's clothing stores, we don't have men's clothing stores, and so is there an opportunity out there to talk with to follow up some leads and make some contacts with some men's clothing stores out there? And I know a business downtown is bringing in men's clothing now, but something like that, is there an opportunity to actually reach out to some businesses, contact them, and say, are you interested? What's your scope? What's your criteria for setting up business in small communities? So we'll be more active out there in actually trying to attract new businesses here, where we find a gap, where we find a need, where our residents are looking for services, and we have to travel to Yarmouth, Halifax, Bridgewater to get those services. Is there an opportunity to attract a business to come here and set up? And item 20 is new. They'll work with the Director of Economic Development on those leads and flush them out and decide what ones we pursue and what ones that we put to the side for a bit, because there's a lot of work in this position. And so we need to prioritize and strategize as to where we need to go. And 22 is new, which talks about supervising staff. So right now the position supervises staff, but there's no recognition in the job description that explains that the person is supervising staff. And then 23 and 24 are internal operational issues around budget and stuff, which isn't in the current job description, which is an updated one, which provides for that responsibility.
Any questions or comments? Councilor Romero?
As a small business owner myself, I'm very pleased with the realigning of this position. And it would be wonderful if we could get more information out there about the small businesses, not just the ones in downtown, but there's a lot of businesses in our community that they get left out because they're not in the downtown area. So it would be, and I have a friend actually that's going to start up a small business, and she didn't know where to go. She didn't know how to get started. She didn't know what she needed. So it'd be really nice to have some help.
Thank you. See no further questions, I'll ask for the question. All those in favor? Contrary? 9.3, a job description for community development coordinator. Councilor Hawks?
I recommend that the Council of Region of Queens Municipality approve the Community Development Coordinator job description.
Seconded by Councilor Amaro. And once again, for the benefit of those who do not have agendas or are listening and watching public.
Okay. So similarly, this, so as I said, we're moving away from the community development part of the business side. We're going to focus more on the business development, the economic parts of it, but there's still some community development parts of our organization that we need to look after. And so this proposal is changing one of our staff who is currently an administrative assistant into a new position, which we call community development coordinator. So it's not a new position, it's just transferring the job title, but also advancing the responsibilities. So for instance, there's one responsibility in the current job description, looking after the phone system. That should be that person's responsibility, should never been that person's responsibility. So we have IT that looks after that. So things like that are no longer relevant. So just on the current job description, item 1 talks about accepting payments and things like that. We don't do that anymore. It all goes through finance. So that's just an updated thing that we've advanced. All of our money is centralized in one location to ensure that for internal controls as far as who's handling money and who isn't. So all the money goes to essentially the one place in the building. So that's just an updated responsibility because we haven't been doing that for quite a while. Item 3 talks about the equipment loan program. That'll transfer over to the MPAL program. This position may help a little bit, but that's really the MPAL position about physical activity and stuff like that. Item 4, maintain filing systems for the staff. Everybody does that themselves now for the most part, so that really comes out of the new job description. Most stuff's electronic now. People keep their own email systems, their own electronic systems. We still have some paper stuff, but each person keeps their own electronic or their own paper system. So it's just an outdated description. So item 7 develops and supports making posters and brochures for community organizations. That started 25 years ago when computers weren't prevalent, and so this will see that phased out over a period of time. Most people have computers, they can make their own posters now. We spend quite a bit of time doing that because we provide it for free, when in reality most people can do it themselves. They just give it to us because we do it for them. They don't have to go through the work. So that would be phased out over a period of time, including things like, as well, making tickets. So people come get their photocopies from us because we still provide free photocopies for community organizations, but they ask us to cut the paper and staple them together into books of tickets. Not a wise use of our resources, that the community groups can do that themselves. So those things will be phased out over a period of time to move away from those, so we can focus more on the more strategic parts of our operation. So I talked about the telephone system, maintaining forms and applications, tracking system, all that stuff. Each department does that on their own, so that's under the new job description as well. Most of the other stuff stays in the new job description. So we go through the new job description, there are a number of new additions, though. So as I said, the item 2 in the new job description talks about the Visitor Information Center. Right now, it's the Community Economic Development Officer. In the new Business Development Officer's job description, that's eliminated, and it transfers over to this position. This position will supervise the VIC operations. Item 3 is the same way, the South Shore Expo, the Saltscapes, which are essentially events that we support. We provide some promotional material, brochures, some booth stuff from the branding side, so that transfers as well from the Business Development Officer into the Community Development person. The 4th one we mentioned as well, Town Hall, Liverpool Courthouse, 4 Point Lighthouse, and other facilities. So those are not business facilities per se, they're more community, so those items that are currently now in the Community Economic Development, the business person, are being transferred over to this community person, because this is a community function as opposed to a business development function. Number 6, develop a database of community groups, mailing address, and providing regular emails. We do most of that now, so that's just a regular thing, but we'll enhance it a little bit to provide more information to community groups. Item 8 is a change. So we began a community investment fund, a very generous one a couple years ago. Right now, the Director of Recreation looks after that in conjunction with this current position, the Administrative Assistant. Essentially, this will transfer over completely to the new Community Development Coordinator, who will facilitate the applications, the advertising, the process of the applications. Will still be overseen by the Director of Recreation, but this position will now take over 95% of the responsibility for that program. Item 11 is coordination to maintain and engage Queen's website. So we're developing that now, and we'll roll that out here in the near future once we get things lined up, and we'll explain to the public what that's all about when it's prepared and ready to go. Item 12, we do a lot of graphic design in-house, a lot of our own brochures. The new signage at Pine Grove was all done in-house. So none of that's in the current job description, but our staff member right now has those skills. And so that's more reflective of what she does now, and so that's just reflected in the new job description of carrying on with those responsibilities. And item 15 is a new one, just recommending policies and changes if we, during the course of the employee's work, if there's things that are noticed that need to be changed or updated or improved upon, that person would make recommendations to the director to do those things. And item 18, as well as a new one, assistant municipal returning officer, and acts as an assistant returning officer. Hopefully it won't be needed for another 3.5 years, or 3 years, I guess. But we always are in need of people that we have, make sure we have people trained when there is the opportunity for an election. We have suitably trained people, and so this will just be an opportunity for that person to move into that position, because our current assisting returning officer, I expect, will retire prior to the next election. And so this is just a succession planning to make sure we train and share some of that information and knowledge prior to the next election. And I think that's all, other than the salary scale has moved up 2 ranges, simply because the responsibilities for the new position obviously are clearly more than the previous position, and they're in line with the other similar positions within the organization.
Any questions? Councilor Brown?
I'd just like to say, it looks like a good realignment of skills to allow people to develop one pathway instead of being, community or economic development or business development. So it allows them to develop their expertise in one path or another. I think it's a great idea, great way to go.
It's a strong focus on business development. If there's no further questions, I'll ask for the question. All those in favor? Contrary? Passed. Job description, manager of events, promotions, and sponsorship. Councilor Romero.
I move that the Council of Region Queens Municipality approve the manager of events, promotions, and sponsorship job description.
Seconded by Councilor Giddens. Yes.
Sweat going here. So with this one, if you look at the current job description, the small print, almost everything in there stays. All those things, every one of those things, all 18 of them stay. Item 13 in the current job description talks about participates as an active member on the Events Liverpool. But Events Liverpool, we've essentially taken over responsibility for that. You'll see on the new job description, it doesn't say participates as an active member. It says here on 13, facilitates and acts as a lead for Events Liverpool. Okay, so that's really the only change as far as additions, or sorry, as deletions or changes. But what is added is item 16 is new. On the new job description, oversees and implements the marketing and promotion for Queens Place Americenter, including development of business, group, and corporate membership programs, sponsorship, incentive programs, and packaging of various promotional opportunities. That was discussed from the previous board of directors, and they declined to participate. They did not want to get involved with corporate memberships or other stuff like that. But it's felt by staff that that needs to happen. We have lots of businesses that are interested in corporate memberships, so they may have 20 staff, and they want to buy a corporate membership that allows 5 to participate at any time, and they can rotate through those 5 people. They don't have to have the same 5 people take a membership, and it's a good way for those businesses to support their employees with healthy and active stuff. So this provides us an opportunity to sell more memberships, get more people inside the facility using it, but also generate some extra revenue and also support those businesses and stuff. So there's other promotional opportunities as well. So it could be packages where somebody has a sign in the building now that's supporting us and sponsoring us, and so maybe there's an opportunity for them to get some other special deals or opportunities because they're already sponsoring us to get some discounts on some other parts of the operation to generate additional revenue for Queens Place and get more people in the building. So that's 16. 17 is new, responsible for negotiation, oversight of contracts and agreements, facility user agreements, building spaces, signs contracts, and so on and so forth. So right now, this is the Director of Recreation responsibility. And so as you'll see in a minute, the Director of Recreation, we're trying to focus that position on very different things outside of Queens Place. And so we need to free up some time away from the current job description for the Director of Recreation to do this. And so we have signage contracts, which this position does now, so that's not changing for all the signage contracts that are in there. But we have a canteen, which we need to figure out what we're going to do with that. And so this position will work on the potential RFP for that and managing the canteen operations for any new users. We have a tenant in there, Queens Early Childhood Development. That agreement expires in August, I believe, so they'll negotiate a new contract with that. We have other agreements for like Hank Snow, Social Expo, and other ones. This position will negotiate those ones. A recent curling event was just announced, so that's another agreement we'll have to negotiate. We have Pepsi in there as a contract, so we have to negotiate and wheel and deal with Pepsi on a regular basis, so this person will deal with that. As well as vending machines and fitness equipment. We have different contracts and things like that for that stuff. So this position will take over responsibility for just the contract part of Queens Place. Queens Place management and operations will stay the same, as you'll see in the next job description, but this person will focus on all the contracts that are in there and dealing with the contracts that are there. 18 is new, which is facilitate marketing and promotions at Queens Place, so the same way. If they're working on corporate sponsorships, they're working on all the different contracts and agreements and leases for the property. They will also work on helping with promoting the facility. So if they're on social media, if they're working on promoting birthday parties, they're going to upsell. They're going to try to upsell and say, okay, we'll give you an hour of ice, an hour of birthday party, and we'll give you a bonus of some sort. So they'll work on some upselling and some promotional things. The current staff, we don't have the time to focus on that. But this position will spend more time focusing on trying to sell more space, sell more opportunities in the building. Collaborate with community organizations, Acadia First Nations, educational healthcare organizations. So there's opportunities that come about on a regular basis throughout the year for different opportunities, and this person will be the person that will try to maximize and take advantage of those opportunities. Without going into detail, there's some things in the process right now we're working on, but this staff person will focus on trying to develop those and bring those things forward because it'll be very positive things for our community. Source out and develop contacts and network leads to lease or sell municipal property and potential developers and things like that. So we have vacant land now, or surplus land we have. It sits with our planning department, and they're, as you know, very busy with permits and stuff, and so this isn't a priority for them. This will allow us to have a discussion in the future with council about the surplus land, and is there an opportunity to go out and market it and sell it for potentially some new housing development. Might be single lots, might be some commercial business development. But we'll come up with the inventory of those assets and determine what ones we want to put on the market for surplus, and this position will focus on bringing those forward and doing that. 21 talks about new housing lots. So if there is some developments for new housing lots that the municipality is involved with, this person will be the salesman and the salesperson. So, so you'll see in the economic development job description for the director, it's about developing housing and housing opportunities. And if you are successful in developing some housing opportunities, then this position is the one that's selling the lots, selling the opportunities, doing the marketing, the advertising, the promotion to get it out there what the opportunities are. So this is the sales part of the operation for that part of it. And as mentioned earlier with the Director of Economic Development on item 22, responsibility for developing a cultural strategy. And so this position works in concert with that director to help develop that cultural strategy. They need to work hand in hand to develop that and bring it forward in conjunction with community groups. So those are the major changes to that one. So it keeps everything that's there now, but it adds on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, adds another 6 important things to the piece of the pie for that position.
And the salaries range stays the same. With more work. Any questions? If not, I'll ask for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the last 9.5, job descriptions, the Director of Recreation and Healthy Communities. A mover? Deputy Muse?
I move that the Council of the Region of Queens Municipality approves the Director of Recreation and Healthy Community job description.
Seconded by Councilor Brown. Last. For this one.
And so if we look at the current job description, the first 5 are staying the same. There's some wording changes and some updating, but those are the same. Item 6 in the current job description talks about marketing and promotion of facilities and events in conjunction with the manager of events. That one's transferred over directly to the manager of events. So they'll work in partnership with each other, but the responsibility essentially is going with that manager of events and promotions. Item 11 in the current one talks about the user agreements and leases, sponsorship, all those types of things. As we just mentioned, those are completely being transferred over to the manager of events and program and sponsorship and marketing. Events, promotions, and sponsorship, sorry. So those are being transferred out of item 15. So all the other ones, for the most part, are staying there. And the new ones that are being added, like the other job descriptions, under the new job description. Item 7, researches, consults, and engages with the communities with respect to developing public spaces and trail strategy and green spaces and parks. So we have a few green spaces now in a couple different communities, but we don't have many in other communities. And so we have a Queens County Rails to Trails group, which is working independent of us on developing trails, but we haven't been a strong partner, and so we need to work on that and help develop trails, but also other green spaces and parks and playgrounds. So if you look around where we have parks and playgrounds and green spaces, they're generally central in a couple of the communities. And so this will be a strategy to say, are there other places in Queens County that are appropriate to develop parks and trails and green spaces that would be appropriate? And so this is that first step in developing, assessing and identifying where those places are, and then working on a plan to go forward to do that. Item 9 talks about the Community Investment Fund. So as I said, currently the director is responsible for that. So this one just changes to provide oversight of the Community Development Coordinator's responsibility for that Community Investment Fund. Item 10 establishes and oversees facility or user group advisory committees when adopted by council and develop facility use plans. So there's been discussion before about Pine Grove and what's acceptable and not acceptable there. And so that would be an example. We've talked, this municipality has talked before about Beach Meadows Beach and wanting to do upgrades there. And so potentially there's an opportunity to develop a local committee of different residents to say what would we need, what should be here, what shouldn't be here, what are acceptable uses. And so this provides the opportunity or provides direction to staff that will be their responsibility to set those up and coordinate those under the direction of council to do that. And so there could be other ones too, but those are just a couple of examples that, and that's why it's written in a general sense and not specific to specific properties. Item 11 is new, and that just refers to number 11. So if there are items that come forward from the advisory groups, then it's the director's responsibility to make sure it's budgeted for detailed plans are developed and is actually implemented subject to council's direction. 14, prepare comprehensive inventory of municipal and community recreation infrastructure assets, including public access to water, to develop a guide. So if somebody wants a biking route, wants to go biking, do we have some documents to show where the biking routes in Queens County are? We have some modest ones that have been adapted over a period of time, but we don't have any real clear, high-quality professional ones. We have similar for canoe routes. We have some old documents, but we don't have some new, up-to-date, clear routes. And things like that. So this puts a focus on this position to do more of that work, to provide more recreation infrastructure, but also the paper assets or the online digital assets for people to be able to access to participate in recreation and know where the parks are, where the playgrounds are, where the trails are, and so on and so forth. So that's that one. Item 16 is new. In cooperation with the Director of Engineering, develops a Queens Place property annual maintenance and capital upgrade plan to ensure efficient facility development. So right now we have two different departments. We have an operations department running the operations of the 3 department, and the building systems part, and we have a Queens Place administrative part which runs the community rooms, the fitness center, and the front desk. And so there needs to be more cooperation. So this is a recognition in the job description that they need to sit down every year and figure out what they're going to work together on, what needs to be done jointly for the whole facility and not work independently. Item 20 is new. In collaboration with Director of Economic Development, prepares public spaces signage and recreational facility signage, wayfaring signage, and those types of things. So as we talked about Pine Grove Park, we've done some preliminary signage there to get public feedback, but that's the first facility we've really put some time and effort into signage. We have lots of parks and facilities around, so we don't have any signage on it for the most part. And so this is the first step. Let's get it right. What's the brand? What's the look? What's the feel? What are the colors? What's the signage, the lettering, the font, and all that stuff? And once we get it done, then we'll work together to make sure it's consistent with the Queens Coast brand for all of our recreation facilities that are similar to the economic development facilities. And item 21 is all the work for a new pool. I think that's what that is. Is that it? Oh, recreation infrastructure, so it's not just a pool, I guess. Responsible establishing timelines, capital repairs, placement, recreation infrastructure, preparing reports, expected costs, risks, in conjunction with the Director of Engineering and Public Works, which could get into architectural work, designs, awarding of tenders, construction work, and so on and so forth. So the most prevalent right now is a replacement of the Milton Pool, and so that would be one of those responsibilities, but there could be other ones. There could be a Cog Park, there could be a Centennial Park, there could be other playgrounds and stuff. So this is that development of recreation infrastructure, the new inclusive playground. So this puts the responsibility for this position to oversee and be responsible for making sure those things are done and done properly. And I think that's all the changes, all the updates on that one. So similar to the last one, almost everything in the current job description is staying, but we're expanding the responsibilities and duties. In this particular case, more outside of Queens Place and more recreation infrastructure in the community outside of Queens Place.
Councilor Brown?
On number 6, we have down at the, this position will assist the manager of events and promotions and sponsorship and in development of innovative approach. Should that be in collaboration? It makes it sound more like one position is subordinate to the other.
So instead of it assist in collaboration with?
Yeah.
Cool.
It doesn't really change the intent much, but it was. Any other comments? Councilor Charlton?
I'm happy to see you focus on other places besides Queens Place, because CEO mentioned there are many of them, and it'll be nice to see some of them improve. And obviously, the Director of Recreation needs more time to be able to do that, so this is great.
We have plenty of green space. When you think about it, from Port LeBaire to Caledonia to Greenfield to Port Medway, we have parks and green space and trails and all sorts of things everywhere. And it's time to coordinate that together. Councilor Fancy?
Is this going to be, I know that when we were going over the impound job before, there's some monies that could be worked with places like, I think of grayed out park, for instance, it gets overgrown, the benches all get, it's not ours, but it can be worked in conjunction with it.
My opinion, and it may not be the council's opinion, is my opinion is our council works for the benefit of region-owned property. And if we begin working on properties of other non-for-profit organizations, I look at Deputy Mayor Muse, who has Hunts Point Hall with tennis court, West Queens, Fort Jolly Hall. It's best, in my opinion, that we stick to what we own, considering it's taxpayers' money, so therefore they own it as well, and not enter the world of the non-for-profit organizations. But that's just my opinion, as you know, it's but one of many, and that's a discussion for another day.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll ask for the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Which takes us on to 9.6. Councillor Charlton?
I would declare a conflict of interest. Do I remove myself from my seat and step somewhere else?
Thank you. As all of you are aware, there's money every year in the section under legislative administration for counselor training. So if someone would make the motion that's presented as a recommendation. Councillor Gidney?
I recommend that the council of the region of Queens Municipality approve registration for Councillor Maddie Charlton in the 12-week online sustainable communities course through Dalhousie University College of continuing education at a cost of $985 to be funded from the 2021-2022 operating budget.
Seconded by Councillor Brown. And as you can see from the document within, it's respecting the development and recognition of sustainable communities. It talks about socioeconomic environmental foundations, the roles that governance plays, how sustainability should be integrated in decision making, and about 6 other bullets. So its main focus is on sustainability and what it is and what it looks like and how we can move forward. Are there any questions? Councillor Gidney?
I think this is a fantastic idea. I think Councillor Charlton will be very good in this, and that she'll be able to bring a lot of it back to us to help guide us in our future endeavors with everything on an ongoing basis.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Romero?
I agree with Councillor Gidney. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. And I can't wait to see the approach.
Councillor Brown?
I'll echo their statements that it's a great opportunity, and with the social media comments that are going around the new possible apartment development on Bristol, a vast majority of the comments are saying that we need affordable housing, we need sustainable housing, and I think this knowledge will help us get to a point where we're looking at it the right way.
Any other comments? If not, I'll ask for the question. All those in favor? Contrary? Congratulations, Councillor Charlton. 13.1, nothing under engineering remarks to report or finance, other than just a reminder that Thursday at 1 o'clock is the second of the budget planning sessions to which are open to the public. 12, recreation, health, and communities, nothing to report at this time. Planning, there is an recommendation, if someone would make that as a motion. Councilor Charlton.
I move that the Council of Region of Queens Municipality appoint Robert Ross to the Planning and Advisory Committee representing District 1 effective immediately for a term to expire on October 31st, 2022.
Seconded by Councilor Gidney. background for this is the representative for the area resigned recently. Robert Ross had been on that planning advisory committee since its inception. The planning advisory committee is, as you all know, and many of the public are aware, is in its third year as under review. Very lengthy documents. So it was thought that an experienced person back on the committee would be helpful for the committee and its purpose. Any questions or comments? Councillor Deputy Mayor Muse?
I got no problem with them going on the committee, I just think it's the wrong way to do it. If it was only 6 months left in the term, yeah, I could see it, but that's a year and a half left, and I think it should have been posted in my district.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Clancy?
To go along with the deputy mayor's comments, why did we do it this way, not just to have it elected?
I believe it was a time factor, and just because past councils do things, I recall when I was on past council when vacancies came up. Someone just simply would say, does anyone know anything? Often councillors handpicked who they wanted to be on it. And it was mainly due to that planning advisory documents, the land use and the strategies that are all under review. That was the reason. Correct or incorrect, that was the path that was followed. Any other questions? If not, I'll ask for the question. All those in favor? Contrary? Passed. 14.0, area rate request from the Seaside Recreation and Community Center. The recommendation is the request that was requested, so therefore, putting forward the affirmative motion is putting forward the request that they asked. And a reminder that whoever makes the motion cannot speak against the motion, so the seconder who makes the motion may speak against it. But the mover of the motion may vote against it, but they cannot speak against it. So therefore, I will ask for a person to make the recommendation as a motion. Deputy Mayor Muse.
I move that the Council of the Region of Queens Municipality approve the levying of a 4 cent per $100 of assessment area rate for all assessment accounts in the Assessment District 7, beginning in 2021-2022 for 5 years, with all proceeds from the area rate being provided to Seaside Recreation and Community Center Association.
And seconded by Councillor Hawks. Questions and comments? Councillor Romero.
First of all, I'd like to thank Sandy and Damien for the countless hours of volunteering and the hard work that they put into this presentation. They provide various programs and activities at the Seaside Center, and they are an essential, essential drinking water that they offer to the residents. They graciously provided a free Christmas dinner, and now they're hosting a free Easter dinner. And I had a question, why, if they're looking for funds, why are they providing free dinners? A lot of people don't realize that they receive not only food donations, but they're also receiving funds as money when they have these dinners, and when they had their Christmas dinner, they received enough to overcome their expenses. And they also provided, they're also providing a dinner for people that may not be able to have a full balanced meal. So I think it's pretty important, and it's a pretty important, project that they're doing right now. As far as the votes, as we see the votes, 192 residents, voted against the area rate and 30 was in favor. I also received many emails and phone calls, from residents that could not vote. Residents were not eligible to vote because they still own property in the area. They were positive about the Seaside Center, but they weren't positive of the area rate. As we know, 30% of Queens County, that's the poverty level here now, and basic essential needs are on the rise: food, insurances, housing, and people are on a limited income. Although I cannot support this area rate, I want us to all go away with a positive attitude about the Seaside Center. What they do, helping everyone, they need volunteers, they need new board members, donations. I most certainly will do what I can do, but I'm also hoping that the residents step up. And now that they're aware of their vision for the future, I'm hoping that everybody will rally together and give them their support.
Thank you, Councilor Romero, for those comments. Are there any other comments or questions? Councilor Brown.
I echo Vicky's comments about the importance of the Seaside Community Center. Every community organization is important to our community. They offer services that most of us wouldn't have otherwise, and it's a big step for them to step forward, come forward and ask for the area rate. The vote was pretty decisive against it, and because of the way the taxation rate and the polling districts went, I received a lot of calls from people in Port Medway who support their own halls, support their own groups, but would have been inside this area rate who were not supportive of it. 100% of the people that contacted me were against supporting an area rate in another community, and I think it's unfortunate that the lines are drawn the way they are. It's a fact of the way it is, but I cannot support this motion based on the feedback I got from my constituents.
Councilor Brown. Councilor Gidney.
I agree with what you're saying. Also have a concern about policy 23, the way it's worded in 23.04, when it talks about what we need, like we need the year's audited financial statements, resolution of directors. I think we should, if we're not going to request that, then maybe we should change our policy to reflect what we do need.
We need to put that on for another discussion.
Okay, thank you.
If you want to bring that, make that matter known, because as you know, we are reviewing the bylaw. Councilor Charlton?
I agree with the other councilor's comments, and my hope is that the community will step up as well, and they have more success with their fundraisers. Also encourage people to consider joining their board. They're a very small but mighty board, but for people, they certainly could use more help. And I hope that the community embraces the hub that's there, because it's a very great thing to have, and I hate to see it not be there.
Any other comments? I guess my only comment would be a reflection to my days when I was a counselor in Deputy Muse's district, and the hall fell in much drastic situation, really destitute situation, and the community rallied behind that hall when it realized that it would be closing its doors, not a might, but a would. And that hall has become one of the most successful halls once the community realized that they would lose what they took for granted. And Seaside is valuable to the community and to Queens. So that and no other further questions, I'll ask all those in favor of the motion, signify by raising your hand. Contrary? The motion was defeated. 14.2, Queen's Daycare funding request. There are two motions within the package. The first one, if someone would like to make that motion, Councillor Charlton.
Can I read both motions, or?
One at a time, please.
I move that Council Reed and Queens Municipality give pre-budget approval for the authorization of grant funding to Queens Daycare Association of $50,000 to be used for cost overruns for the new infant care center, with the funding to be included in the community grant section of the 2021-2022 operating budget, and that prior to December 31st, 2021, the association provide a full accounting and report to the municipality concerning the use of these funds.
Seconded by Councillor Gidney. Questions or comments? Councillor Charlton.
I would just like to bring to everyone's attention that I've spoke to Scott Christian as the chair of the board since our last budget meeting. They have been successful in getting large donations from private donors in the upwards of $150,000. I think that's an amazing thing that the community is embracing the daycare, and that they're stepping up and supporting it. And you know, when they did their presentation to council, they needed far more than that, and they didn't ask all of that of us. So I think, you know, I think they're moving in the right direction, and I think that if everyone can work together, that they'll be in a great place. Support us.
So you're stating that they do have a $150,000 donation coming their way, because you do realize that these two things put a penny on the tax rate?
Where I'm making it aware that they have been successful in multiple private donations because of their presentation and what they needed and where they need to go was far over the 150. I'm just making it aware to council that they have been successful in giving donations.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Brown?
I've talked to different people around the county, and most of them are very supportive of the Queen's Daycare. It's our only licensed daycare, and I think this direction will make it easier for them to come closer to being financially secure, and it also will help our economic development departments to attract young professionals and attract businesses if we have this service to offer. I think without that, we've got a high hill to climb.
Any other comments? Deputy News, would you take the chair for a moment? I was prepared to vote for this $50,000 because I felt, when I look back at why the ask was made, it was made to help with the cost overrun, which was cited at $130,000. But I've since learned this evening that you have a unanimous donation of $150,000, which covers that $130,000, which you said was the cost overrun, of which you asked for $50,000. I'm very leery about our upcoming tax rate, and I'm not going to be able to support this motion. And you have to keep the chair.
Yep.
Anyone else have anything to say to this?
If not, what's the question? All those in favor? Opposed?
Passed.
4-4. Am I wrong? 4-4.
Carl, you voted against?
Against.
The motion is defeated. And Councillor Charlton, did you wish to read the second motion?
Sure. I I move that the Council of Region of Queens Municipality give pre-budget approval for the authorization of grant funding to Queens Daycare Association of $30,000 to assist with decreased operating revenues, with the funding to be included in the community grant section of the 2021-2022 operating budget, and that prior to December 31st, 2021, the association provide a full accounting and report to the municipality concerning the use of these funds and the benefits accrued from this municipal support.
Seconded by Councilor Gaines. Comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Muse?
I think this should be turned down and go back to the budget on Thursday. There's a lot of things I don't understand, why they didn't go through the community investment fund to get some money, and this is a big budget thing, and I think it should go back on the budget for Thursday. Be turned down.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Fancy?
Try to state it the best way in the house is that, I'm in favor of it, but I don't know if we should be doing that under the budget deliberation, because if we do that for this, we're not saying we can't do it on, when we go to the budget, but I just don't know if it's a proper place. I'm just asking the question, Mayor.
It was placed pre-budget because it was clumped as 80,000 because of the urgency for the monies for the end of March, is what we were told. That by the end of March, the center was in need of payment. So therefore, it was a pre-budget. There have been councils that have given pre-budget approval on other matters in the past, so this isn't new to give a pre-budget approval.
I can understand the 50 because that was, you had to do that, and that's why I voted for that. But the 30, if that's going forward, and that's what everybody asks for, isn't it? I don't know, just asking, to make sure we do it right.
If you recall from their presentation, the 30 was for operating costs. At the time, they felt they had enough expenditure to keep them going, so they might possibly have closure by summer without the operating costs. And the ask had been originally for 3 years, but staff, it was put as a 1-year ask rather than put council on the line for 3 years. Councilor Charlton?
I think the confusion here is that when they did the presentation, the immediate ask was the 50, and I think Jack just expected to see the 50 and not see the 30 until budget deliberation.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, that's is what he's trying to
Yes.
say. So that is a matter of council. If you defeat the motion, then it cannot be discussed again at a $30,000 figure. Councilor McNeil, what, Promotion or the council?
I got a promotion.
No, that's.
Sounds like you got demoted.
A defeat of motion does not come back unless it's rescinded. So could a 30,000, if this was defeated, or could this second motion be put forward for another date?
If council wishes to defeat the motion, they would defeat the motion. If they wish to approve the motion, they approve the motion. If they wish to have further discussion on it, then they should defer the motion to budget deliberations, and then it'd be further discussed during budget deliberations.
So there is your answer.
So we'd need a motion to defer it to budget deliberations if that was the wish of council.
Councilor Fancy?
Can we do that when we already get a motion on the floor?
Yes, the motion's there, and you make a motion to defer the motion, and then you have to have a second. Councilor Brown?
I think there was some urgency with this group for funding, and this is why we went with pre-budget approval. I still think it's an important group, and the only reason I voted against the 50 was because I was unaware that they had received that that other funding to cover it, but I think, you know, there is a sense of urgency with this $30,000 to keep them solvent and operational, and I think it's important. It's an important thing to do, and I'm in favor of it.
Any other comments or questions before I ask for the question? Councillor Charlton?
I would just second what Councillor Brown said. They presented to us, and we know that they're in a position that is tricky. We've had conversations about our strategies for economic development and attracting young people into this community, and we cannot lose our only licensed daycare. If we were to lose this daycare, we would never get it back, and we will never attract young families. We would lose families we have now because of this. Very much in support of this.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, I'll ask for the question. All those in favor? Contrary? Passed. Council implementation report 14.3. Again, it's a continuation of motions that have been made that have not yet been settled. Some of them have been settled, therefore they'll disappear off of the next list. Are there any that councilors have any questions of? If not, I would ask for a motion to go in camera. Moved by Deputy Mayor Muse, seconded by Councilor Romero, that we move in camera. We'll take the Deputy Mayor Muse moved.
We'll take a vote first.
Oh, I take a vote first. All those in favor? Take a